If you are not into the technical side of audio recording, you might want to skip this video. It'll probably be kind of boring for you. We are going to go through the process of calibrating a 2-inch tape machine. This is a skill set that is really getting lost. Not a lot of people record the tape anymore. So the more we share this knowledge, the longer we could keep this art form going. Before we get into the process of calibrating this tape machine, I want to clear up some misconceptions that I have read on the interwebs. This is an MCI JH-24. It's from 1983. MCI also made a JH-16. They are not the same machine. A JH-16 and a JH-24 is two different machines made by the same company. A lot of people seem to think that a JH-16 is a 16-track version and a JH-24 is a 24-track version. There is some truth to that, but let me just clear this up. JH-16s were made in the 70s. JH-24s were made in the 80s. Studios had the option to order these machines as an 8-track, 16-track, or 24-track. So back in the 70s, if you were ordering an MCI JH-16, the model number for an 8-track would be JH-16-8. It'd be an 8-track JH-16. A 16-track JH-16-16, and so on. Fast forward to the 80s, they came out with the JH-24, and it was the same nomenclature. If you wanted a 8-track, it would be JH-24-8, JH-24-16, and if you wanted a 24-track like I have, you would order a JH-24-24. When I purchased this machine, I completely refurbished it. I recapped it. The manual is beautifully laid out with all the schematics for everything you need to know and do to make repairs on this machine. And I recommend, if you own one of these or are thinking about owning one of these machines, to learn them inside and out. The last thing you want is a tech charging you $1,200 to $1,500 a day to work on one of these, because not a lot of people know how to fix these. So that's just a little bit of advice I would give you there, all right? And the more you know, the more you can do, the more valuable you are. Let's talk about tape really fast. This is a 10-inch reel of 2-inch tape, and you could record at 2 different speeds, and it'll give you different record times. At 15 inches per second, you get about a half an hour, 30 minutes of record time. At 30 inches per second, you get approximately 15 minutes of record time. The difference I noticed in sound at the different record speeds is I feel like 15 inches per second, there's a nice low end to it. And at 30 inches per second, it has like more fidelity and a sweeter top end. Think about back in the day when a band would record 12 to 16 songs for one album. And you guys are recording studio guys. You know that bands do multiple takes of the same song, maybe 2 to 5 takes of the same song, and then pick the best take that they prefer. And back in the day, they would take these takes and splice them together, literally splice them together with a razor blade. Today, we have the benefit of transferring to Pro Tools and doing really fast editing, and you could manipulate music in so many different ways. It's incredible. So I could imagine a major label band that's releasing a 12 to 16 song album using easily 40, 60, 80 rolls of tape. And maybe more, depending on what speed they're recording at. Where today, you could fit multiple albums on one little hard drive. I have multiple albums recorded on this one hard drive. So this is a terabyte hard drive, multiple albums. We've come a very long way with recording. Let's get started with the calibration process of this JH-24. In order to calibrate your tape machine, you need a test tone tape. I have the short version, which came on this 8-inch reel, but I transferred it to a 10-inch reel. And the reason why I did that is because I like the same size reel for the same weight to be on both the take-up reel and the supply reel. I have this tails out right now. And when I spool this tape machine, I'm going to rewind it to the beginning of the tape. We are calibrating at +6 with a -3 dB overbias at 355 nanowebers. Give it a couple spins and then rewind. It's important to know that I have no computer on right now, and we are going to hear the test tone tape patch through my patch bay straight onto my console. And it's important to have your faders up so you could hear each channel, because there's 24 channels. This is a 28-channel console. And this way, if I think there's an issue with one, I could solo that channel. And additionally, the VU meters on my tape machine should match the VU meters on my console. For today's video, I am going to calibrate at 30 inches per second because the band I have coming in, that's what I want to record them at. So I return to that point, and now I'm going to hit reset, and now I'll always be able to return to that point. The first thing we're going to calibrate is our level with a 1 kilohertz tone. Make sure your remote is set to tape. We are calibrating the Repro card first, and then we're going to do the Q card. At this point in the video, I would like you to take a screenshot of this picture I took. I added descriptors to it so you could see what potentiometer should be adjusted as we calibrate this tape machine. Let's get started.
AES equalization, 1 kilohertz.
That could get annoying, so let me turn that down. And I'm just paying attention to my VUs to see where they're at, and they are pretty close. Let's take a look at that. At 1K, I'm at 0 dB. Pretty much on every channel, except for 19, 18, 17. These lower 8 channels are off, but the rest are all on. But I'm going to demonstrate exactly how we're going to calibrate the level. Then we're going to go through the high frequency, and then we'll go through the low frequency. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're in tape. I'm going to press play. You're going to hear the 1 kilohertz test tone. I am going to adjust the very bottom potentiometer here. And we're going to pay attention to VU number 1. Here we go. Play.
AES equalization, 1 kilohertz.
Now look at how that's down. And I'm bringing it up to 0. I'll bring it past 0 now. And then I'll bring it back down to 0. And I am adjusting the very bottom potentiometer on the Repro card. And that's how you set the level for all 24 channels. Now we're going to fast forward to the 10 kilohertz tone and do the high frequency at 30 IPS. I'm going to hit reset. That's my return to 0. And now we're going to hear the 10 kilohertz tone. And what you're going to adjust there is, if you look here, just like that screenshot I told you to take, high means high speed, low means low speed. So I'm going to adjust the arrow pointing towards high speed for the 10,000 kilohertz. So I'm going to get on this potentiometer, and I'm going to press play. We're still in tape. And then I'm going to adjust channel 1, high frequency, 10 kilohertz tone. Here we go.
10 kilohertz.
Look how high it is. We're pretty off here. Look at channel 1. Now I'm going to back that off. You see, look at channel 1 right here. See how I'm bringing it back down to 0? Right there. Now look at channel 2. I'm going to come, channel 2, high frequency, at 30 inches per second. Look at channel 2. I'm going to bring that back down. I'm going to go through every channel playing that 10 kilohertz tone and do exactly what I did. In tape mode on the Repro card at high frequency, high speed, and I'm going to adjust every channel to 0. Now I'm going to clear it, my return to 0, and we're going to hear the 100 hertz tone. And we are going to adjust high speed, 30 inches per second, low frequency, 100 hertz, right here. It's the arrow pointing away.
100 hertz.
Now look at it, it's pretty close. It's a little off. So let me adjust it. I'm going to bring it up to 0. There it is. Look at number 1, just went to 0. And they're all pretty on. They're about maybe a quarter dB off. They're looking pretty good. You're going to do that for every channel, and that's exactly how you calibrate the Repro side. And now we're going to do the Q card. So now we're going to calibrate the Q side. So I'm going to switch from tape all the way over to auto on the remote. And the card that we're going to be paying attention to now is the record Q card. But we're not doing the record side. That's going to be another video. We're going to do the Q card. And it's the same layout if you look. You have high for high speed, 30 inches per second. And the high speed has high frequency with the arrow pointing at it and low frequency with the arrow pointing away. Then you go down to low, that's low speed, that's 15 inches per second. Same thing, high frequency, 10,000 kilohertz with the arrow pointing at it, low frequency, 100 hertz, arrow pointing away, and then the very bottom pot is the level pot. So you're going to return back to your 1 kilohertz tone, make sure your remote is in auto, you're going to press play, and you're going to adjust this very bottom potentiometer to where your VU reaches 0. And let's see where we're at. I'm going to press play.
1 kilohertz.
And actually, we're all at 0. All at 0 until you get to channel 16. So I'm going to pull out, go to channel 16 on the Q card all the way down here, the very bottom pot, potentiometer and the Q card. Channel 16 is down. I'm going to bring that up to 0. It's that simple. All the levels are calibrated at a 1 kilohertz tone to 0. Now we're to go to the 10 kilohertz tone and just a high frequency on the Q side. Let's look at 10K.
10 kilohertz.
Okay, we're a little high. Look at channel 1 right there. So we're going to go down to the Q card. This arrow pointing at it at 30 inches per second, which is high speed. And look at this. We're going to bring that down. And now channel VU1 is at 0. I'm going to do that for every channel now. And our high frequency, high speed on the Q side with the remote and auto is now calibrated. So if you're only doing the Repro, which is the playback calibration, then you should do the 100 hertz tone. But if you're doing the full calibration where you're going to do the record side too, you could skip the 100 hertz tone and just do it on the record side. So let me show you the low frequency tone for this.
100 hertz.
There it is. High speed, 30 inches per second with the arrow pointing away. That's the 100 hertz tone. And then I'm going to press play and let's look at VU number 1, channel 1.
100 hertz.
See how it's low? Now watch this. I'm going to bring it up to 0. There it is at 0. And the rest look actually pretty good. A couple of them are a few dB down, a couple dB down. I'm going to go through every channel and I'm going to adjust them all to 0. And basically what we just did was a full playback side of the JH-24. And the steps might have seemed like a lot, but when you memorize them, it could go pretty quick. Let's do a quick recap on what we just did. First, I had the autolocator set to tape, and I adjusted the Repro card. At a 1K tone, the level potentiometer. At a 10 kilohertz tone, the arrow pointing towards the high speed 30 inches per second. At a 100 hertz tone, the arrow pointing away from the high speed 30 inches per second. Then, after I did every channel, I switched the autolocator to auto, and I adjusted the Q section of the record Q card. Same thing, 1K tone, level. 10 kilohertz tone, arrow pointing towards high speed, 30 inches per second. 100 hertz tone, arrow pointing away from the high speed, 30 inches per second. That's calibrating the reproduction, the playback side of the JH-24. There's a whole nother amount of steps we need to follow to do the record side of the JH-24. And that will be in a part 2 video that I will make if there's enough interest in this video. Thank you for watching and take care.